Virginia, they won by 35 against Clemson.
They won by a few.
They put up 85 points on the team that was ranked number 1 in defensive efficiency on KenPom. They have made 27 of their last 51 threes over the course of the last 2 games. They're 5-0 in ACC play. They have not lost since they got run out of the gym by Gonzaga on the day after Christmas. Where do you stand on Virginia? How good is UVA? Are they the best team in the ACC? Like, talk me through all of this because it's hard for me to wrap my head around.
Yeah, I think they're going to be the best team in the ACC, in a mediocre ACC. We've already talked about this. They caught Clemson at the right time, coming off a pause. Would it have mattered? Probably not. Virginia's getting better. We've seen that. For Virginia fans that are crying about me not ranking them, you hadn't beaten anybody. You lost to USF. You got blown out by Gonzaga, and you hadn't beaten anybody. So there was no merit in you being ranked in the top 25. Now there is. Now you beat a top 25 team in Clemson. To me, again, listen, I've always said, just look at the numbers and what Tony Bennett has done in the ACC over the last 6-7 years, dominating Kay and Roy. So if you're betting on anybody, you are absolutely betting on Virginia, and you're betting on Tony Bennett ultimately because this team, they're good. And again, they're getting better. That's the thing. It's hard to judge, coming out of the gate in Bubbleville when they lost to San Francisco. It's hard to judge when you get blown out by a Gonzaga team that most of us feel like is heads and shoulders above everybody else not named Baylor right now. So I think Virginia's going to have its really good days, and they're going to have some days where they're not making shots, and specifically Hauser and Huff aren't making shots, and then they can't score the ball, and their defense isn't as good as it's been in the past.
So I've gone back and forth on this. On the one hand, we always know that Virginia teams are going to improve and going to continue getting better and going to develop. And we know Kihei Clarkson winner, we know what Jay Huff is, we know what Sam Hauser is. I think the development of guys like Trey Murphy into a consistent knockdown shooter, Reese Beekman into a guy that is basically become a must-start player on that Virginia roster. Tomas Holden Tensei being able to knock down shots. Like the development of those guys into key and impactful role players I think has played a huge role in it as well. But that said, look at who they've beaten, man. Their best win prior to the start of ACC play was an overtime win at home against Kent State, who is outside the top 100 on KenPom. That's the only team that they had played prior to the start of ACC play that ranked in the top 235 on KenPom. The wins that they have before beating Clemson: Notre Dame, Wake Forest, Boston College, Notre Dame again. They get Clemson after Clemson had a 10-day layoff and then had 3 days of practices before they had to play again. Now, that shouldn't take away from the fact that they put up 85 points in 58 possessions. That's 1.47 points per possession, Jeffrey. When Gonzaga put up 98 on Virginia, they averaged 1.42 points per possession. So what Virginia did against Clemson was a more impressive offensive performance than what Gonzaga did to Virginia. I think that should be taken into context. But we also have to remember that they did the same thing last year too, where they were just okay, objectively mediocre in non-conference play. They get to the ACC, which was not very good, and they went 15-5. I think they won their last 9 games, and they finished second in the conference, 1 game out of first place. This year, the ACC is even more down than it was last season. So I really do think that Virginia is probably going to end up winning the conference just because.
Well, look at their schedule too coming up, Rob.
It's not.
They State at home, Georgia Tech at home, Syracuse at home. Then you go at Virginia Tech, at NC State, Louisville at home, at Georgia Tech. It's just like you said, the league is so mediocre. This is the most mediocre to me the ACC has ever been. Again, because you look at Virginia and you're like, they don't look like what team in the ACC looks like a Final Four contender?
Well, I remember I was talking with a guy from a staff in a coach in the ACC the other day, and he was basically like, Virginia they're good, they're well coached. They're not going to make mistakes. They're not going to beat themselves if they're making shots. They're dangerous, but this is not the 2019 team.
No.
Like that 2019 team had the number 4 pick in DeAndre Hunter. They had another first-round pick in Ty Jerome, and they had another guy that's playing in the NBA and was maybe the best shooter in college basketball that season, in Kyle Guy. This year's team,
the other two players were pretty good on that starting 5 as well.
Yeah, like, and the other 2 guys, or this team now is like Kihei Clark, and look, he's good.
Do any of those players, anybody on this team start over anybody on that team?
Well, I mean, Kihei Clark started on both.
I get it, but other than that, the other 4 guys, Hauser, Murphy,
it's not even
Beekman. No, none of them.
And it's not even close. Like the talent disparity is just, it's not even a conversation. Like you can't even put them in the same realm. But they're probably going to end up winning the ACC because the ACC is down and they're the best team in the conference. So like how you judge them nationally is really difficult to do because I think it's also important to note that like the loss to Virginia came when they were experimenting with this new offense that was just a horrible idea for Tony Bennett to try to install. The loss to Gonzaga, yes, they played a game 4 days before, but they had also been on like a 2-week long COVID pause before that. So it's understandable that maybe they weren't exactly what they needed to be. But at the end of the day, I just think that they're very, very average in terms of what we expect a Virginia basketball team to be. And that's probably going to end up being good enough for them to win the ACC and get like a top 4 seed in the NCAA tournament and lose in the second round. Like that's kind of what I see them be. So they're good. They're probably better than – they're not as good as we thought they were coming into the season. They're not as bad as we thought they were after the first week of the season.
Correct.
I think that's probably the best way to phrase it.
Yes, they'd fit nicely in the somewhere in that like 3 to 5 range in the Big Ten.
I don't even know if they would be that good. I don't think that they're – I think that they would not – I don't think they'd be a top 4 team in the Big Ten.
You may be right. I mean, there's somewhere in all right, 3 to 6. Like they're in that mix. Is all.
Are they beating Iowa? I don't think they can.
No, I don't think they're beating Iowa. I don't think they're beating Michigan, Wisconsin. Maybe.
I don't think they beat Wisconsin unless somehow there's some superpower that Tony Bennett can take from being from the state. And maybe it's just like the Sam Hauser curse. Wisconsin can't get him when he leaves high school. They can't get him when he transfers.
Ohio State. They're in that realm with like an Ohio State. I'm not saying they're better. I'm just saying they're right there with like an Ohio State, which is probably the 5th best team right now in the Big Ten.
Yeah, I mean it's something like that. Yep. Yeah, but like it's still, when you look at it, all right. If you're gonna look at the roster, let's take Minnesota for example. All right, 4-4 in the Big Ten, probably not a top 5 team in the conference. Right. If you are drafting those players to start a college basketball team, and you can take the rosters of Virginia and you can take the rosters of Minnesota, are you taking anyone on Virginia over Marcus Carr or Liam Robbins?
You know who I'm drafting first? Tony Bennett.
Okay, but that's
drafting first. That's
okay.
I'm just saying.
Yeah. I'm going to take the best. I'm going to take the best coach in college basketball.
I get it. What I'm saying is, you can say what you want about the talent level. He makes such a difference. He is such an elite coach that, to me, again, he's gonna get him to a point where they shouldn't be talent-wise right now. And they're young. They got some good young players as well that are coming along.